all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
There's no crying in baseball.
You talking to me?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You can't handle the truth!
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello and welcome to the Old School Movie Club podcast. I am Sean, joined with my friend Kevin. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm good. I've had a really good day, but I think you and I are maybe a little sick. We're both clearing our throats nonstop tonight.
Yeah, so we'll see how many throat scratches and voice cracks there are going to be on this podcast.
Hey, thankfully we're recording on Skype though, so we can mute if we need to.
We can. It's a little more difficult for me since I'm standing on the other side of the room, but I will I will definitely try to do my best.
No, good luck.
Yeah. Alright, so this week we watched Se7en. And
yeah.
We've already discussed kind of our overall, not overall thoughts, but kind of just initial reactions between ourselves. We've got a little divisive take on this one, I guess.
Just a little.
Yeah, I mean, so
will it get more divisive than our Big Lebowski episode? I don't know.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. So I want to know from your thought, what made you think this movie was, because you said on the phone that you almost gave this a 5.
I almost gave this 5 stars.
And I'm not even close to that, so I want to hear it from you. I'm gonna take a little different approach on this podcast. Try to pull me over to your side.
Oh, just like I had to do with Rebel Without a Cause?
Yeah, I just try to explain to me why this is almost a 5 for you.
So I've always really loved the films that I've seen from David Fincher.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen most of them yet, but I mean his filmography includes Gone Girl, Fight Club, The Social Network, Se7en, Zodiac, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He's got a lot of really good films there on his filmography. And he also did Alien 3, mm-hmm. which we don't need to talk about.
No.
So the ones that I have seen on his filmography are Gone Girl, The Social Network, and now Se7en. And the reason
that's funny,
that
I've also
almost went 5 stars here is because I had to think about it, and I don't like this quite as much as I like The Social Network, which is another 4.5 star film for me.
Mm-hmm.
But man, David Fincher is a dark dude.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a dark film, but it's funny when you said that those are your 3 David Fincher movies you've seen, because I think I've seen 3 or 4, but I haven't seen the ones that you've seen. I've seen Zodiac and Fight Club, and those are both really, really dark as well, and Fight Club's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Fight Club. And I think... my problem with Se7en is, and I didn't know that David Fincher, going to this movie, I didn't really know much about Se7en at all. And when I said last week that it was oh, yeah, I remember the twist at the end, I was thinking about a different movie completely. I was thinking...
Oh, no. What movie were you thinking about?
I was thinking about The Usual Suspects, because it came out the same year, and it has that big twist at the end as well, with He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah, the not Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, there you go. But when I was thinking about this movie and I was watching this movie, I was like, this feels a lot like Zodiac. And it does feel a lot like Zodiac, but I just think Zodiac is a better movie. Zodiac just, for me at least. And I know you haven't seen Zodiac, but...
Not yet.
It just... This movie was very, very boring for me a lot of the time. I don't know why it was. And I liked a lot of the themes of this movie. Or not the themes, I guess, but the... How should I put it? I liked the way that this movie was shot. I liked the story of this movie. It's just a lot of the downtime in this movie was really, really boring to me. And so the last half hour of the movie was great. or I guess the last 15 minutes. When they're in the car riding to.
Once He Who Shall Not Be Named gets a lot of screen time.
Exactly, and that was great. Like, really, like, it honestly got my heart pounding when they were going out to the field. But I also saw the thing coming. Like, the writing was on the wall for me. I already knew it was going to happen. And then not because I knew it before the movie came in, but because, like, I just put two and two together and I was like, oh, I know exactly what he's taking him to. I didn't know exactly the delivery system in which it was going to happen, but no pun intended, but I knew, like, going to the field, I was like, oh, I see where this is going. But still, that was really, like, that actually got my heart pounding in it a little bit, and the rest of the movie for me was just so much less than that. It was very, very boring for me.
Could you imagine being that delivery driver?
I know, right?
Being paid that money to go out into the middle of nowhere, and when you get there, you see cop cars and helicopters.
For real. I mean, he takes off too. He's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but I'm like, dude, you could at least get back in the van, right? I don't know. I guess they needed the van for
evidence,
for
maybe.
Crime evidence purposes, maybe.
Yeah.
It's funny though what you said about how you thought you knew the ending, but you realized it was a different movie. I already knew the ending to this movie.
Yeah. Just
because it's been out for now 23 years almost, and it's hard to avoid spoilers for a movie for that long.
Yeah.
So I already knew the whole what's in the box ending, and I've heard a lot of people talk about, was Brad Pitt overacting a little bit there?
What's in the box? Yeah. That's a very famous
but still,
meme thing.
Yeah, but still the way that again, no pun intended, the way that final scene was delivered.
I like that a lot. That's my favorite part of the movie.
Was incredible.
Yeah.
It had my heart racing, even though I knew the ending and knew what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even on that car ride going into the field, I wasn't thinking, oh, there's going to be 2 dead bodies out there to represent envy and wrath. But still, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here, even though I knew what happened.
Yeah. See, the only reason the writing was on the wall for me is because just like we hadn't seen her for a long time, and when he said 2 bodies, right when he said 2 bodies, I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen, or not exactly what's going to happen, but I know who he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, that didn't take anything away from me. Like, I'm just saying that part was really, really well executed, and that was really, really good, and has Zodiac, actually, the movie that I compare this a lot to, because it's a very, very similar to Zodiac. Zodiac has a very, very similar scene, more towards the middle of the movie, where it gets, like, your heart just starts racing, because you're really, really fearing for the characters. And you're like, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? And then it's done so well, and it's like, has a very, very similar feeling to me. The rest of the movie for me is kind of lackluster, and can you kind of defend that part for it? Like, what made this movie, like, as a whole, so great for you?
So I can understand why people would say the stuff maybe in between the crime scenes was a little boring, and it's completely understandable. But for me, that kind of slow burn stuff, when you're really getting to know the characters and how they work together and the ins and outs of their personalities, Pitt and Freeman have spectacular chemistry together in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was in a trance the whole time. It took a little bit of time to get me into it. At the beginning of the film, the first crime scene, I was like, ooh, this is going to be great. And then it bored me a little bit until it got to that second crime scene.
See, that's kind of where I was too when they happened upon that that first crime scene. Are you talking about the like the big guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna love this movie because I love these like detective crime thrillers. This is gonna be amazing. But they didn't go much into like they didn't go deep enough into kind of like what the killer, like the behind this, like the mind of the killer, almost like trying to like figure everything out. And it was a lot more of like character development for like Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt in between. But
Yeah, well, I don't think it needed to go into any like background or
not background. I'm just saying like
not,
more
not
like
back-
detective
but, like,
stuff.
I didn't need to get to know the killer because his purpose in the film is just to be a serial killer who thinks that he's doing right
Yeah.
by killing people who represent the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just wanted to be more like. I just think there was a lot of character development in this movie, and I feel like other directors do this kind of stuff a lot better for me. And it was just like last week with Reservoir Dogs. That's like all Quentin Tarantino does, is he does dialogue and character development, and it's just like.
Yep.
I would much rather watch a Tarantino film than this, because even while the high of this movie is really, really high, the down points is just like, it's kind of, the dialogue isn't as great as I know dialogue in movies like this can be. And he does a lot better in Zodiac. Like, Zodiac is in the down parts of Zodiac, it's much, much better. And, we're not going to watch that on this podcast because it's so new. It's a lot newer, a lot more new.
And you've already seen it.
And I've already seen it, but I would go ahead and tell you, Kevin, to go and watch Zodiac if you like this movie, because Zodiac's very, very similar. And in my opinion, it's just a better version of this. Like, he was testing the waters with Se7en with his crime thriller, and then kind of went to Zodiac and was like, I've perfected it, or I've gotten a lot better at it now.
It's interesting hearing you say that, though, because amongst all the film people that I talk to, and I think not everybody, but for the most part, the general consensus on Fincher films is, even though Se7en is one of his earlier films, most people say that it's his best film.
Really?
And even when comparing Se7en and Zodiac, I keep hearing people say that. I don't know Zodiac, of course, but I've heard people say that. Zodiac can be more violent, but that Se7en is more of an interesting character piece and dialogue-heavy film than Zodiac is.
Huh. Maybe it just didn't land with me. I don't know. It just, a lot of the dialogue just doesn't, it just didn't hit right with me, maybe. I don't know.
And not to say that Zodiac's not a good film either. I mean, looking at Zodiac on Letterboxd, it has a 4.0, and on IMDb it has a 7.7, which are both really good scores.
Yeah.
But looking at Se7en has a 4.3 on Letterboxd, which is almost Godfather level.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And on IMDb has an 8.7.
All right, so switching gears a little bit. What did you think about, you already said the performances and the chemistry was really, really good between Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. Can you go a little bit more into how, what did you think about more in depth of the performances?
So what I really loved about the chemistry there, especially between those two, is that whole kind of young cop, old cop vibe between the two of them.
Yeah.
You got the one, Morgan Freeman's character is literally within a week of retiring when all of this starts to go down. And then Brad Pitt, who I think was 32 at the time that this movie came out. So obviously the young cop who's a bit more excited and he thinks he can kind of take on anything.
Yeah.
And both of them portray those kinds of characters really well in this movie. I do tend to side on Brad Pitt overacting a little bit in that final scene.
I didn't even think that, though.
I don't know. When that came up, I laughed a little bit. I was like,
yeah,
you could do it a little more subtly, and I'd
meme.
still be sold on that line.
like that everyone knows like what's in the box thing because it's like it's almost like the bees for the internet, you know.
Yeah. I still can't compare it to bees.
No. It's not to that level, but it's like that same kind of similar.
Bees is one of the most overacted lines in the history of anything.
Yeah. But it's you know what I'm saying, like where it's kind of been shared around because whenever he said the what's in the box, I was like, oh yeah, that's in this movie, isn't it?
Yeah. And then it hurts me to say this, but I think the best performance in the film really did come from He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah, it really did. Like, as soon as he's on screen, you just...
Not even on screen, just hearing his talk like on the phone before you even see him for the first time.
Yeah.
It chills. And
Exactly.
maybe it's because he was always great at playing a villain, but maybe he didn't really have to act because he might actually be a real life villain. Also, did you see Split last year?
I did not, no.
Okay. For those of you who have seen Split, Kevin Spacey in this film looks a whole lot like James McAvoy looked in Split, and I could not get that out of my head when I was watching it.
So in the trailers for Split, which I have seen, I know what McAvoy looks like in Split, but I was thinking the same thing. He's very, very similar. Because it's like a much younger Spacey in this film, you know. He's very slimmed down, a lot younger. He's not like super, super young in this movie, but a lot younger than he is now. So it genuinely shocked me to see how skinny he was. Yeah.
In that scene when he was like running into the courthouse or the police station or whatever it was, with that bloodied shirt on.
Yeah, and he was like, "Detective."
Yeah, I was like, oh, man, he is skinny.
Yeah.
Because he's not that skinny anymore.
No. And I think he's always had that kind of thing whenever he did villain characters. He just... And it sucks to say, but, like, he just was, like... He was a very, very good actor, like, in that kind of sense. Like, he played that role so, so well.
Yeah, he's always been... He was a huge reason... why I really liked Baby Driver this past year.
Yeah.
His performance was great, and it was another one. He may not have been a complete villain. He was more of an anti-hero. But he's damn good at that villain kind of role.
But like you said, maybe he wasn't really acting that much.
Yeah, he probably wasn't.
So, you know, you said you love the David Fincher cinematography in all his movies that you've seen. What did you think about it in Se7en? Did you think it's more of the same for David Fincher, like more great cinematography?
Yeah, I mean, I still need to see more of his filmography to really compare. Because Gone Girl and Social Network are both a bit smaller and more intimate than Se7en is.
Right.
Because you don't have big like action scenes and whatnot in those films like you do in Se7en, but it still has that kind of Fincher vibe.
Yeah, and Fincher definitely has a vibe because the two movies I've seen, which are on the polar opposite of Gone Girl and Social Network, which are Fight Club and Zodiac, it's just the Fincher style bleeds through that dark, gritty. That dark, gritty style is just like prevalent throughout this movie and all his movies that I've seen. And I'm sure most of the movies that I haven't seen, I could probably safely bet that they all have like the similar kind of filmography and style to them.
Yeah.
So
one thing I really love about Fincher is just that he can take any concept and make it super dark.
Yes.
Because I mean, Se7en, if you think about it, is really just it's like a sermon about the 7 deadly sins.
Right.
Gone Girl is, you know, a suburban white couple, and The Social Network is a really dark movie about Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, the dude can take anything and make it dark, and
which this is definitely
it's worked for me every time. Like
those are the only 3 films
that I've seen, and I've given all of them the same rating so far. Even though Social Network I still think is, by the slightest of margins, my favorite of the three.
So this is my third favorite Fincher movie that I've seen, and I've seen 3. So...
Honestly, this might be my third favorite as well, but I've really loved all of his stuff that I've seen so far.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great director, and I mean, that we don't have to tell you that. He's known as a great director, so it's just... you got any more...
Just don't let Alien 3 be the first David Fincher film that you watch.
Don't go see Alien 3. Just don't do it. Like, don't let it be the first one you see, and just don't go see it.
Yeah,
And
well, I don't know about don't go see it.
You don't have to.
You can still see it if you want to. You don't need to. But
so do you got any more thoughts before we go into our final conclusions about this?
I also really loved Gwyneth Paltrow in this movie.
Yes, I thought
we
she
haven't
needed a little
we
bit
haven't
more
talked about her, but she didn't get a whole lot of screen time. It was far less than what I thought she was going to have going into the movie. But man, was it good. Yeah, and
I feel like she needed a little bit more screen time for me, but I still felt that punch at the end because I liked Brad Pitt's character a lot. So that punch still landed with me at the end where, in the box thing.
Yeah, once you realize, I mean, and I thought we were going to get to see her head in the box.
No. So I like it so much better that he didn't show it.
Right. No, I'm with you on that. I found it was more effective just to hear he who shall not be named speak it rather than seeing it.
Yeah.
Because it sends more chills down your spine.
Yeah. And that whole scene, he was just haunting. It's just like, it's so good and so bad in the same way. All right, final thoughts on this, Kevin. What's your final score? You said you were almost going for a 5, so I want to know this.
Yeah, I almost went for a 5, but I'm not. I'm going with a 4.5 out of 5.
All right, Kevin.
Very close. I mean, I hear what you said about in between the crime scenes being a little boring, and I can understand that to an extent because there were a couple times where some of those maybe did slow down a little bit, and I was like, all right, let's get to the next crime scene. But at the same time, a lot of them were very good scenes of character exploration for me. Seeing more development out of Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and Gwyneth Paltrow's characters in between those scenes, making it more of an emotional gut punch when the ending does happen.
Yeah. So I'm going to walk through my score real quick, okay? So when I first came out of this movie, I started at 3 out of 5.
Okay.
And then I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, well, the ending is definitely great, and the ending itself is worth the price of admission to go see this movie, just to take the time out of your day to go see it. So that bumps me up a little bit.
It really is one of the greatest final acts I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah, and then after that, I was like, well, the ending was good because I was able to. I really did like Brad Pitt's character, so that bumped me a little bit. So I'm gonna my final score is gonna end up at a 3.5 out of 5. Still not on your level, but like because the same things you said. For me, it was just a lot of the character development was kind of boring. I still did end up liking the characters, and I thought they did a good, not great job for me personally. And a lot of the dialogue didn't land for me personally, and it is like if you just look at the scores for everyone else, this like the dialogue did land for a lot of people, and that's why you should be looking at multiple reviewers or find the reviewer that fits your like kind of taste. Don't just go by one score. Because I mean, even a 3.5 out of 5 though, it's still like it's still respectable. So, and we've said this a lot of times in this podcast.
I mean, if you were to tell me coming out of a theater that you gave a movie 7 out of 10, that's still a fresh rating. That's something that I would still want to go see.
Exactly. And even if nothing else lands for you in this movie, I'm almost to the point where I'll guarantee you that the ending will land for you and you'll have your heart racing. Because it's done perfectly. It's almost perfectly. there's not much more he could have done better with that last 15 to 30 minutes.
Right, and I know I've said it earlier, but even knowing how the final act plays out, because you can't avoid spoilers for 23 years,
right?
My heart was still racing, and I had no idea how we were going to get to that end result, and it was chilling.
It was very, very chilling. That's definitely what word I would use to describe the ending of this movie. All right, Kevin, moving on from 7, you've got a 4.5 out of 5. I got 3.5 out of 5. I will still say go see this movie if you have the time, or even if you don't have the time, try to cut out a little bit of your day. Go see 7. It's important. It's a good movie. It's, in Kevin's eyes, it's a great movie. You know, so if you align your tastes more with Kevin, you know, 7 will be one of the best movies you'll ever see. So, what are we watching in the next 2 weeks for February?
Right. So, going forward, the show's going to work on a slightly different schedule, since Sean and I are both a lot busier now than we were the past several months.
Right.
We're going to switch over to a bi-weekly schedule. So our Old School Movie Club show will happen every 2 weeks. Every once in a while, one of those down weeks, we might throw in another episode with like new reviews or some sort of list or award predictions, you know, with the Oscars coming up. But for February, we are going to take a holiday approach, just like we did with Halloween and Christmas. So we asked people to suggest some romance movies to us in honor of Valentine's Day. And there were 4 movies suggested to me. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, When Harry Met Sally, Love and Basketball, and Before Sunrise. And so I put those 4 films up to a vote on both Twitter and on Stardust as well. And it looks like our 2 winners are going to be Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and When Harry Met Sally. So, Sean, if you want to go ahead and pick one of those to be our next episode.
I just looked up Eternal Sunshine. Jim Carrey's in it.
He is.
Let's go with that one.
And that would be by far our most recent film if we pick it, because it's from 2004.
Yes. Let's start with When Harry Met Sally.
You want to go with When Harry Met Sally?
Yes. Let's start with that, and then we'll do Eternal Sunshine in the last half of February.
Okay.
That sounds good to me. What about you?
I like it. So we've got When Harry Met Sally coming up in about 2 weeks. What are you thinking about this film going in, Sean?
See, I don't know much about it. I'm trying to read a little bit right now. I've definitely heard of the film. I just haven't, because both of these are romantic comedies, are they not? Eternal Sunshine and When Harry Met Sally?
When Harry Met Sally is definitely a romantic comedy. Eternal Sunshine is more of a dramatic romance, and from what I've heard, has some sci-fi elements.
I looked up the score of that on Eternal Sunshine. It has a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very high score. Not what I was really expecting. But I don't really have much to think about, because I've only heard of this movie in name. I haven't really heard anything else about it. What about you?
For When Harry Met Sally?
Yeah. Or for both, even.
For When Harry Met Sally, I've heard from a lot of people that it's definitely one of those classic rom-coms, mostly because of how quotable it is. So we'll see about that.
We'll see how many quotes we can pull out of it.
Yeah, directed by Rob Reiner, stars Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, who
Carrie
Meg
Fisher,
Ryan was like
rest in
the
peace.
queen of rom-coms in the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
And Carrie Fisher is in there too.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, like I've seen a few scenes from this movie, but nothing to really pull anything out of, which like for the story, honestly, and nothing that has really stuck with me. I just know I've seen a few scenes of this movie. That's about it. Like I know about this movie. I know it exists, but I haven't really heard much about it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't know the story. I just know that it's supposed to be really funny. It's gotten some writing nominations when it came out in 1989. So we'll see.
I'm excited for it though because Billy Crystal is great.
He is. That's my boy Mike Wazowski.
There you go. He's great, so I'm excited. I mean,
Yeah.
all the movies on our list are going to be good movies for the most part.
I'm not going to lie, though. I was kind of hoping there would be some votes for Love and Basketball, since you and I both love movies and basketball.
Yeah, that is true.
That would have been nice, but, you know,
it
is what it is.
Love and Basketball is one of those movies that plays on TV all the time.
Yeah, I think some people might have... I mean, it was one of the ones that was suggested to me, but I'm thinking maybe some other people looked at it and they're like, that's more of like a Lifetime movie kind of deal, and it's not well known.
So Kevin, this doesn't change the poll results, but we just got 20 votes in the last 5 minutes of talking about it.
Yeah, we did.
The results are the same, but we did just get 20 more votes in the last 5 minutes. That's pretty
Who
great.
retweeted us? Oh, Blu-ray Dan retweeted us, and he's got 24,000 followers, so that helped.
That makes sense. Anyways, thanks Blu-ray Dan. So, first up, When Harry Met Sally, then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
And that one seems to be, that one has 50% of our votes, and that's a lot of people. That's 20 people that want to watch that movie.
And then over on my Stardust group chat, that one by far had the most votes as well.
So it's got high. I'm excited for that one too. I'm ready for February. I think this is gonna be a good month.
Eternal Sunshine is one of the most critically acclaimed films since the turn of the century.
That high praise. I can't wait to see it. All right. Anyways, I think that's it for us. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything before we wrap up here?
I just pray to God that When Harry Met Sally actually makes me laugh.
I hope so too. It is an older comedy, and we don't, some of those don't really hit the mark with current generation. But that's why we're here. We're the gatekeepers for these old movies. We're gonna see.
I just hope I have more of a Ferris Bueller reaction to it than I do a Big Lebowski reaction.
Yeah, or a more of a Ferris Bueller and less of a Christmas Vacation.
Oh God. Oh God.
Anyways, Kevin, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at kevwatchthefilm.com for all of my reviews and award predictions, and follow me on Twitter and Stardust at kevwatchthefilm.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at OldSkoolMovieSK. All right.
Yep. Go watch movies.
Go watch movies.